Hi everyone, Leslie here. Week 7 vlog. Can you believe that we're already into week 7? It's pretty crazy how time has been flying by. I can't believe that this was the 7th vlog that I've made already for the quarter. So, our reading this week was "What Makes a Organizational Change Process Positive" by Golden Biddle and Mal. So basically, there was one important question that was basically asked throughout this, and that was what makes a change process positive. We experience this change in education. We're going to experience it in the workplace. We experience it in life. But how do you go through those processes in a positive way? And they kind of created this lens to narrow down, and they looked at empirical studies to identify that. And then they created these 3 clusters. That's what they kind of dove deeper into. And those clusters were considered acting with compassion and change, fostering agency and change, and sustaining cultural continuity and change. And those were like the 3 aspects that they kind of dove deeper in. For me, the biggest takeaway I had was acting with compassion and change. So, the first thing that you need to start off with is they called it small acts that make change positive clusters. So what was interesting and what they talked about in the very beginning was that positive was not necessarily a universal condition, where certain people that considered certain things positive, other people might have identified as negative. So there wasn't this, universal way to just identify, which was pretty surprising. So it kind of complicated things. So what they did was they used a lens. It was basically a perspective taking on part as researchers when reading studies. They pay attention to people's experiences and change that are or could be made more life enriching, and how to change processes enable the development of people and local capability. So just kind of like they just made it into like this broader sense. And then they use the process lens because analytically incorporates the fluidity and the open-endedness of changing. So it was just really interesting. And when they talk about clusters of small acts, that means groups as like small deeds or works representing a similar kind of effort. And so that one cluster I really had some impact was compassion. What they state is compassion counts as a connection to the human spirit and to the human condition. Compassion matters deeply. It matters deeply that we tap the human condition both in our practice and our study of organizational life. The Oxford Dictionary defines compassion as a feeling or emotion when a person is moved by the suffering or distress of another and by the desire to relieve it. So that's kind of one of my first questions for everyone is, has anyone ever in an organization treated you with an act of compassion? Or if not, have you ever, can you think of a situation where you made an act of compassion, and what did that look like? So that is my first question. And so what it goes on, it goes to show the really importance of compassion and how it can, really help with change. And what it states is, it's shown that it's attending to people's emotional needs shape how they feel about themselves and about their organization. It A lot of things that they also talk about is that whatever happens at work also has a profound effect on personal life. And I think that we can all relate to it. Sometimes it's hard to not separate the two, and our lives become intertwined. And when we're having stressors at home, you can see that in the workplace. And you have to really have compassion for people and what they're going through, because you never know until you've walked a mile in their shoes. So that compassion and empathy, especially as a leader, understanding that people are going through hardships and how you can honestly be there for them and serve with compassion, I think is pretty powerful. It also shows that there's evidence that experiencing compassion during difficult moments can help people better navigate change. Acting with compassion in change represents a positive clustering of small acts that can make change more positive. It can inspire the creation of implementation processes and therefore that foreground the dignity and self respect of each other. And something that I thought about was how compassion is so important. But what about self compassion? Having love for yourself to be able to have compassion towards others. I feel like that's kind of like where it roots. We need to really have self compassion towards ourselves and love for ourselves and what we do, and know that we are making, we're an asset and we're one of those moving parts to change. And I think that really shows in leaders when they can acknowledge those things and have that type of awareness. But self compassion is something that, we've learned about definitely in positive psychology, and something I like to dig deeper in. So all the talk about compassion really made me think about, it really does start at the self. We have to have love for each other, for ourselves, and then, we can love others wholeheartedly. Another takeaway that I got was something that they talked about was simply by acknowledging the existence of problems and talking about problems in an open setting help legitimate what the recipients are feeling. This builds a bond between the manager and their subordinates in a way that is empathetic and sincere. So for me, it made me think of my work and how we do morning huddles. So we kind of try to solve issues at hand, or kind of come up with a plan about what the morning is going to look like, or what the day is going to look like. If there's any issues from the night before, we kind of discuss that, and we really have this open communication and open dialogue, and this platform where you can feel comfortable to laugh, or express your frustrations or your angers and not feel judged or as if you're going to get in trouble. My second question is, do you have this type of open setting in an organization that you've been involved in? Are you given the ability to have this open space, this type of platform to get to the task at hand, you know what I mean, and really connect and understand what everyone might be going through in different departments, or different avenues, because at the end of the day, you are your weakest link, so you have to come together. So that is my second question. The reading was really amazing. The other clusters were just as important: fostering agency and change, and lastly, the sustaining cultural continuity and change was super important. And these studies just represented the efforts and what strategies and things you can do to really strengthen and initiate positive change. And it was really interesting to read, and I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Bye.